Muted while you present.
And we are live. Awesome. So we're going to have a lot of people now coming in across LinkedIn, YouTube, and X. Hello, guys. Hello, everybody. And thanks for joining in. I know it's a busy end of month, end of October. We're in hardcore Q4. For some people, Q4 starts on actually next week, next Monday. For anybody that's joining in right now, I would love to hear you guys, where you're from in the world. And then additionally, what is it that you do? So are you a GTM engineer? Are you account exec? Are you head of sales, etc.? Just want to find out, kind of, bit of context essentially, right? So that we can maybe optimize some parts of what you're going to see, and we're going to talk about later on. If you have specific questions that you already want to ask, when you saw this, Clay, Salesforge, just pop them into chats, and we'll be bringing questions live on stage later on. Actually, most of those will be in the second part, where we're going to go hardcore on the Q&A part. So you can ask us any questions that you wish on all topics, typically that have to do something with cold email, LinkedIn automations, how to use Clay, and so on and so forth, and maybe a bunch of other tools maybe that have to do also in tandem with Clay or some sort of Clay strategy. So we have quite a few ideas. So while you're gonna pop stuff into comments, let me just introduce myself. I'm Frank Saunders. I'm the founder of Salesforge. We've been running Salesforge and the other forges that we have in the business for about 2.5 years. My background is in sales for over 10 years, and my previous job, I used to lead a sales team of 50. And really, the main premise of why we're building Salesforge is to help companies, small and large, to increase their pipeline numbers, but do that with the leanest and meanest possible team. So just to give an idea, guys, we have about 5 people in the sales team right now. Actually, there's also, you could say, in the sales team, customer success. But 5 people today produce a lot more meetings than my sales team of 50 back in the days. So today we generate about about 500 plus demos on a monthly basis, and Clay naturally plays a significant part in there. I would say significance is about maybe 10 to 20% if you have to bring some sort of percentage, weight into the equation. So Clay plays a big part, and I think if you have not used Clay yet, it's definitely a good moment to kind of dabble into this. A lot of the stuff that we're going to discuss is definitely for beginners and maybe more intermediate, but it gives you some of the ideas. But whatever questions you have, just drop them into chat, and we'd really like to dive deeper. So don't be shy. This is for you, not for us. So yeah, Aquila, over to you. We'd love to get an intro from you as well. So it's just not just me talking.
Yeah, hi everyone. Super happy to be here. My name is Aquila. I'm part of the go-to-market team, and I look after our users here at the Forge. Today, I'll be showing you some Clay tables. It will be a super fun and interactive session, and I already see some questions coming in. So please continue, and yeah, it's going to be fun. Thanks for joining.
Awesome. So we're going to give it another couple minutes or so, because I always know that people joining late. I also join in late to all these things as well myself. So good to see people around from different places in the world. Jerry from Austin actually went to Dallas recently. So also was in Texas a while back. So hello, everybody. Fairman and other people. So we already have some questions coming in as well. So feel free, if you have specific questions in mind, like 1, 2, 3 questions that you really want to ask and you want for us to take that, just drop them in either one by one or all 3 in one go. It's up to you guys. As I said, this session is for you. We're expecting about 100, 200 people kind of tuning in live right now. So that's why I want to give it a bit more time. Yeah, the focus definitely of the session is more what we describe GTM engineering. So specifically the bits and bobs that you need to do around the automations and actually side of things. One of the things I would like to ask whoever isn't here, so Jerry is an owner of GTM consultancy and other people as well, I can see. But what is your familiarity with Clay? Are you more of a beginner, or you don't know anything? Have you used Clay a lot and you're more intermediate and you just want to see what we do? So it would be also good to see guys also in the crowd as well from you, so that we can maybe narrow down a bit the topic. But yeah, cool. Yes. Hello, Tom from Hamburg. Yes, I was just Hamburg literally a few hours ago, to be honest, early on today. All right, so Aquila, let's then maybe dive in. So how many? So we have I think 10 Clay tables we want to show.
Yeah, today we'll show you 9 tables, or
Yeah,
maybe 10. We'll see how it goes.
yeah.
And we'll cover a few different cases, and everything is, of course, related to Salesforce and how to use them together, both tools.
Sounds good. So maybe let's do the following. So guys, when you're gonna see a specific use case, if you're not gonna have any questions on that particular use case, we're gonna go immediately over to the next use case, right? So the idea is if you get it, Aquila, knows what she's doing, right? And she explained it really well. We're just moving on to the next use case, right? So we wanna give you as much of value as we can. And then if you're hungry for more, I can have also a mini surprise also at the end, but it really depends on how hungry are you for more stuff. So Aquila, over to you.
I was just thinking, like, Frank, can you do a quick intro on
Oh,
the stack
yes,
first?
true. Yes.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot. Sorry. So
No
one
worries.
thing I want to do, so if somebody's not familiar with Salesforce, because I want to kind of skip that, but so one thing I want to just quickly do is just bring everybody up to page what is actually Salesforce. So Salesforce essentially is just quickly, it's on our website on the homepage. You can just scroll it down. But what we help you to do is we'll help you to gather leads and execute those leads against a couple of channels, cold email in particular, and then also LinkedIn. And you can do that programmatically, which means you can hook up unlimited email accounts, unlimited LinkedIn profiles, and essentially scale your outreach. So on one hand, you can get a lot of data from LeadsForge, but it's not a very sophisticated product from a standpoint of feature set. This is why we use Clay as well, additionally on top of LeadsForge. Then we have 3 infrastructure products to set up your secondary domains and email accounts to improve deliverability. Then we have what's called a premium warm-up pool, which is called WarmForge. It's actually free of charge if you use the main product called Salesforge. And Salesforce is where the product where essentially you execute all your cold email campaigns at scale, including LinkedIn. So just to give you an example, I already mentioned that we do over 500 demos on a monthly basis. About 70% or so are on inbound, about 30% are on outbound. But we send right now on average about 10,000 emails on a weekly basis. We have about 30 LinkedIn profiles from our team where we connect with about 3,000 individuals on a weekly basis. The acceptance rates is about 40 to 50%, and then the reply rates are somewhere between 20 to 40%. So you do all the execution, and then naturally you sync up with your favorite CRM, whatever it is that you're using, HubSpot, Salesforce, Breakhold, add to your folks. So they're all specialized in different areas. If you have some questions on that, let me know. If you don't want to do everything yourself manually, then we also run what we call Agent Frank. So it's a autonomous AI capability where you can reach out fully autonomously, essentially, to your prospects. It handles the replies and then essentially books the meetings for you. So that's all really I want to talk about Salesforce. This is just for the people that are not familiar with what we do. So yeah, over to you, Akile.
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Frank. So let me share my screen and I'll show the different use cases. Okay, so right, so hope you can see my screen. So today I'll walk you through 9 cases. I'll start with a blank example to see how to build a table from scratch. This is for those who are just getting started, and then we'll go for some cases like finding your top ICP, and then sales leaders working in different companies, recycling demos, winning back your customers, finding partners, and so on. And of course, if you have questions, ask them right away, or we can also go for it all. So it depends. It depends how it goes. But Frank, please stop me when you feel like we should take a moment to answer questions. Okay, so let's start with the blank page, and let's say you want to find people. Let's say, I don't know, people working in software companies, maybe specific titles. So we can start building this table from scratch. I'm just going to add industry software development. You can exclude some industries. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to select company sizes, a few job titles. I'm looking for, let's say, VP level, job function, sales. What else? What else? Location. One of our primary markets actually is United States. I'm going to go for that. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to start here. Press continue, and then import new table. And now it's going to populate a clay table with the information that I'm looking for. So let's see what we have here. We have different people. We have companies. So first name, last name, full name. Okay, that's good. We had their LinkedIn profile. So of course, we want to know their email addresses so we can then export this list to Salesforge. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna look for their email, and we're gonna go to Actions, Work Email. We have full name, company, domain, LinkedIn profile. Let's go. Save and run 10 rows. And let's see. Okay, so work email is populating, hopefully. It's gonna take a minute, but it's good to show how it's done from scratch. Okay, so you see it working. We have quite a few emails, that's great. Okay, let's give it a few more minutes. And then once we, actually one thing that I should adjust, so let's go to the source, edit source. I'm gonna limit to fewer people because we'll take forever. Save search, wait a second. Okay, we might need to do that from scratch again. Just give me a moment. Software development. Let's go for these two. Job title. Okay, perfect. And then limit, let's go for 20. Importing table. Okay, that's something to remember because otherwise you will find many different people. And as we're running a demo, it's good to go for a smaller amount. Okay, so we have these people. Now we're going to populate this column with their work email. So let's go here, save, run. Okay, and now it's going to take less time, which is good. Okay, so it's running. Let's see what we get. Matt, Samuel. Okay, perfect.
So one of the things I just want to mention, because it's quite important, you only want to do it with about 10 to 20 rows, because if you made a mistake and then suddenly you have 1,000 rows,
Yeah.
you're burning through the credits, right? So you definitely want to review first a little batch of leads and see if everything populates correctly and then everything is working correctly, and only then sort of extend and expand that to the rest of the time or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the things that you need to be cautious of, because there's a thing called credit burn, and you need to be just make sure you don't suddenly spend a few $100s or a few thousands of dollars because
Yeah. Exactly.
you went down too aggressive. This is typically a mistake that happens in the very early days of you using Clay, and then you made a few mistakes and it bites really badly. So I definitely know a few companies and agencies in particular that where they onboard a new employee and then things do happen. So the reason why it's a bit slow, I guess, is because if you're not familiar with how Clay works, essentially it's a waterfall enrichment where we're essentially pulling in the email addresses right now from different vendors. It gets slightly slower, I think, in the the US time zone sometimes. So I think maybe we catch that slowness, but typically it's much faster when it comes to the actual extraction of the email. So yeah.
Yeah, so it's a very good catch when it comes to credits. The so click pricing is based on credits, so definitely something to watch out for. Okay, so once let's say we populate this column, we then want to add these people to Salesforge so we can plan our sequence. So in order to do that, we would search for Salesforge, and you can see this option here, insert contacts into workspace. So let's say you already have your workspace in Salesforge, you don't have any contacts, the contacts will come from Clay, they are already enriched. And I'm just going to select test.
And for anybody that doesn't know what a workspace is, so let's say you are an agency and you have 10 customers, that means you want to create 10 workspaces. So one workspace for each of the customers. Yeah, you can create unlimited workspaces, which is one of the benefits. Where every other competitor that we know in the space just charges per workspace, but in our case, it's unlimited. So it's a huge advantage. But if you are a non-agency, typical software company, etc., a workspace is used for either for a single user or for sort of different teams. So, for example, we onboarded a customer recently with 20 account execs, and they really want to have a clean view for every one of the account execs. So that means every account exec would have their own workspace. So that's how you can think about workspaces, and because you want to have that sort of structure in place and push the leads into the right workspace. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. So upstart context, and then we're going to select first name, last name, email, company, LinkedIn URL. Save and run 10 rows. And essentially, we're creating a separate column. You can add, like, you don't need to go through, you don't need to add these columns here, but I added that just so we can see who's going to go into the workspace. But essentially, right now, we are adding these contexts to a workspace that I will show to you right now. So this is Salesforge. So once the contacts are populated in Clay, they will be added here. We have a native integration with Clay that will be that's available essentially here. We can add you get your API key and essentially connect it. And once that's done, we go to contacts, and these are the contacts that are added from that Clay table. Okay. So once you have the context, you can start thinking about your sequence. So essentially how it works, you would name your sequence. Maybe you are targeting a specific customer segment. Let's say, again, sales leaders working in software companies in the US. You would add the contacts from the context page here. You can select a specific amount, for example, 10 or 20 or 120, whatever works for you. And then you would validate those contacts. We have some validation credits as part of your Salesforce plans. And then, of course, you would start building your copy here. You can set up multiple steps. We don't recommend more than 3 emails per contact because deliverability tends to go down with every new step. And here you can select days in between and essentially schedule your sequence, select some settings, and then launch it. We also have AI available for the initial email, so you can use that too. Not going to go into the detail, but essentially that's the logic. That's how it works. You would start with this Clay table, populated with the information that is missing, and then for actions, you would add those contacts to a workspace in Salesforce. Any questions on this example?
I'm just checking.
Mhm.
So Kyle has a question. Should the best practice to be Clay to Salesforge or Clay to CRM and then CRM to Salesforge? I guess it depends on the CRM a bit more, but yeah, I think you definitely want to push it probably to HubSpot. Say we use HubSpot, right? So you want to push it to HubSpot, and then from HubSpot, maybe you could pick the list, dynamic list from HubSpot, and then execute that, and then sync back the record. I know other people want to push it to to Salesforce, then do the execution of the emails on LinkedIn, and then only do something in HubSpot after that. It depends on what is your process, but I would say the typical one is you want to first push into HubSpot, because in HubSpot you need to have the record to sync it up against, right? So let's say there was a reply or there was an open or whatever, whatever the activity you want to sync up, right? So, so hope that answers your question, Kyle. If we don't have any other questions right now on this particular use case, let's move on to use case 2.
Okay. So yes, we start with the blank example, basic integration with Salesforce, which I have just shown. So let's go with top ICP search list and finding sales leaders. So essentially here, we were looking for companies that match our ICP criteria, right? And we have this new table with different companies. We have description, primary industry, company size, and so on. We had their LinkedIn URL, and now we need to find people working in these companies. So in the previous example, we were looking for people. Here we found companies, but we don't have anyone to email just yet. So we would gonna go to this table here, and I'm gonna quickly show you how it does the search. So essentially, you would go to AI in Actions, and you would generate a prompt. Our prompt says, search the LinkedIn, find the senior salesperson or decision maker, first and last name, and then output first and last name in one field and position in another. Okay, so you add the prompt here. Make sure that your prompt is very specific. Don't go for vague job titles and keep it short and simple. Okay, so that once you had that, you save it, and it would start generating responses. And here's the output. We have the names, we have their email addresses. For email, don't forget that if the column is empty, right, you would go here, work email, and essentially add it. So it's a similar case. Everything is focused on a list, and that's what we're generating here. We're generating CLI tables, and then the output is a list that we can export to Salesforge to start planning our cold outreach. Okay, so once we have the work email, we can go to actions. Again, go to Salesforge and upstart those contacts into the workspace, right? So we do that. Click here, workspace. So you can have multiple workspaces. So Frank has shared an example. We work with lots of agencies that have different clients. So all of the workspaces would be here. So for me, it's a test environment, which I already showed to you. And essentially, all of these contacts will be added to the same to the workspace that you selected, and the same sort of logic applies, but the search is different. This is where we focus on the companies first, your ideal customer profile at the company level, finding senior sales leaders with an AI prompt, populating this column with their email addresses, and then inserting these into Salesforce so you can have a dedicated campaign towards these individuals. And because everyone is a sales leader, let's say working at SaaS companies, they'll probably share some pain points. And if we go back to Salesforce, for example, I'm going to show you our product card that we use for AI, and I'll explain how it works. So let's go to the Forge and go for Agent Frank. So let's say you want to target those sales leaders and sell them Agent Frank. So in this case, we're using our own product to sell Agent Frank. The CLI table already had their names, their email addresses, their LinkedIn profiles, which means that we can use that information. These are personalization sources, essentially. And the other part is filling out this product card to then enable the AI to draft an email with substance, essentially. So here we add the product name, Agent Frank. We adding the pain point, cost of inaction, solution, and so on. Save the changes. And this is ready to go. And in the sequence, when you create your new sequence, you would say sales leaders US, select the product card. You're selling Agent Frank. You would create the sequence and you would add those contacts from the CLI table. Okay, they're already importing your workspace. Validation, building a copy. In this case, sorry, you would use AI. So this is kind of like a quick use case covering a very specific CLI table and then selling a very specific product to sales leaders who are looking for an automated solution.
So if you want to just get a example email, because instead of computing it for a random person, you can just go to agentfrank.ai and just request an email copy by just injecting your LinkedIn URL and your email address, and then we'll do the web crawl on your data, and then we'll send you an email. So you can kind of get an example of what it actually executes. There were some questions here. Let me just cover those. Mr. Dovis is saying, hey, will there be a recording available? Yes, it's available on this exact link, or it's available in YouTube to watch later. And then we've got another question. Can Salesforce score incoming leads in real time from different sources? So I can take this one. So typically the way you do scoring, you want to do the scoring in Clay. So you are getting X records, you score them, and based on the score, you decide what happens next. Next meaning, are we executing these against these leads, or what are we doing, right? So the kind of the decision happens in Clay, and then the execution can happen in Salesforce, as an example, from an inbound standpoint. And there was a good point by Jerry. If you don't think CRM first, no activity can be logged. That's exactly the point. And so, yeah. 3 questions, great ones, guys. Please keep coming if you have any other questions at all. And I think this was a very straightforward use case in terms of specifically finding ICP. That's exactly what we do, naturally, because we send 10,000 emails on a weekly basis and reach out to about 3,000 individuals. We need to get vast amount of data to make sure the machine is, keeps on, going. So that's why we're pulling a lot of data from Clay and a lot of different maybe segments. And one of the maybe things I'll also show at the end as well, what else you can do. But yeah, let's move on to use case 3 then.
Yeah, so actually I'll mix it up a little bit so
Mhm.
it's more fun. I will show how
It was not
to
fun until now.
So, yeah, so I'll show you how to use our lead sourcing platform, LeadsForge, to get a follower list, LinkedIn follower list, and import it into Clay. It's one of the use cases. But essentially, just earlier today, I was going for this list. So in in LeadsForge, which is our lead sourcing platform, you have three options to look for contacts, right? So you can sort it by customer profile, by lookalikes, and by followers. So I wanted to find our followers, so Salesforge followers, and I got to this list, which is essentially 50 people who follow our LinkedIn profiles. You can adjust the filters, but essentially I have a list here that I can export. We have lots of different people and different roles. Of course, you can sort of segment by job titles, but let's say this is a list that you want to use. I would simply export it. And then I would go to Clay, and I can quickly show you. So let's go to this
So yeah, this
table
case,
here.
the reason why we're showing this particular use case is because in Clay you can extract followers either from your company, your competitors, or adjacent companies where you may be sharing the same audience in terms of the ICP. So,
Yeah,
um, and the reason also why it's super valuable is because within the follower base, a lot of followers are customers of that page essentially or that company, right? So this is why it's a really great audience where you can just build get an audience and then have the right copy for that particular audience. Let's say you have maybe a better offer in terms of you have a cheaper product, better product, faster product, whatever that is, right? So um in a lot of cases you don't even need to use AI for that. I also find because you know that the audience is problem and solution aware, right? So yeah.
yeah, exactly. So again, you can just look for your company follows, your competitor follows. Okay, so if we go back to the table, so essentially here, I'll quickly show you. So you would import a CSV file, okay, and look for that specific file. So I'm just gonna upload it. Complete import. Okay, so here are all the people. Okay, so what do we have? First name, last name, job title, primary domain. So again, we're missing email. So when it comes to Salesforce, we have two channels right now, email and LinkedIn. So that's why it's super important to have their email addresses and their LinkedIn profiles, right? So because the email is missing, we're gonna go to actions, once again, populate with email. Sorry, just a second. First name. And this information will be added to the table. And then we have a complete list, right? We have their work email and their LinkedIn profile. Once we start adding the work emails, we can finally add them to Salesforce. So again, Salesforce, everything goes the same way, right? All of these different use cases lead to Salesforce, where you implement add essentially the list and then start planning your sequence. So depending on your plan, for example, with the growth plan, you can have 10,000 active contacts across different sequences, and you can send 50,000 emails. So our recommendation is having multiple sequences, especially in the beginning when you're just getting started, to see what messaging sticks, and then you can start scaling up. So it might have more granular sequences of, let's say, 2,000 contacts. In this case, it's very small.
Mm.
Usually our customers start with, I don't know, 2,000 contacts, and then test the messaging, tweak it, and then scale from there. So we have lots of different sort of plans and ways for you to achieve your goals. Any comments here in this specific use case, the follower search, Frank?
No questions coming in from now, but what I can do maybe also to spice things up is I can show guys to you the messaging on how we target particular competitors.
Mm.
So let me just share my screen for a bit, and we're just gonna jump into a bit on the copy part of this. So
Yeah,
we're
let's
we're
do
we're
that.
still sticking to followers. Just assume we are targeting competitive followers right now, right? So and we know that competitive followers are let's say Salesforce competitors, right? So they maybe are doing LinkedIn outreach, maybe doing the email outreach, right? So what is the copy? What's the style? So if I'm going to Salesforge, the first thing that I want to do is I would start with LinkedIn. Depending on the volume, if you have a huge volume, means you have tens of thousands of followers. I typically would start with email because email scales significantly better. Because for every single LinkedIn profile, you can only really connect to about 100 people on a weekly basis. But if the volume is low, I would typically start with LinkedIn and then I'll go to the email. So just assume the volume is low in this particular audience. So we're going to start on view profile. Then I always recommend to do a blank connection request. So no note in there. It has been statistically proven that blank connection request has higher acceptance rate than when there's something in it. And then after that, immediately I would fire off a message, which is short and snappy, which is very WhatsApp-like. It's literally a one-liner. So let's have a look at it. So here it says, "Hey, first name, just a quick one on my mind. Do you do a ton of LinkedIn outreach these days?" And that's it. There's no sign off. There's no name. Nothing like that. It's like WhatsApp. Imagine like you're writing to your friend, etc. Like keep it very casual because the more official, the more formal, the more email-y like sort of you're gonna make it, the more it smells like automation. And the more simple you're gonna keep it, and more sort of a one-liner and straight to the point and being direct, the more it looks like a real actual person wrote it actually. So then after 3 days, we would fire off another message and just think of it as a naturally as a thread in LinkedIn. Just coming back here, I assume not. And again, it's a one-liner, and I always say lead with a question. Always lead with a question, and don't necessarily sell your product from the get-go, and that just works really well. Now, if we didn't get anything back after a couple messages, don't send a third email because sort of third message because it smells like a sequence essentially, right? People are used to these sequences, so a couple messages does seem like fine. Now, when there's no response on LinkedIn, what we do is like if we have an email, we progress to further to another sequence. If we don't have an email, then we just withdraw a connection because it's very important to keep your LinkedIn account healthy. So on the messaging front, if you are having the same name to the mailbox, then you can just continue the thread and say something like, "Hey, I pinged you on LinkedIn, but I didn't get anything back. Like, did you get my note or something?" But in our case, what we do is we have randomized names that we use on the email accounts. So you can see here, subject line starts with the lowercase really in here, and that's because it's a bit of a pattern trap. But if you can keep the whole subject line 2 to 3 words, this is really the highest performing, and lowercase everything. So lowercase has been proven that it's a pattern trap. There's also other people that talk about this a fair bit, like Nathan Latka, for example, etc. If you're part of his email marketing campaigns, you can see that he always makes it lowercase. And again, short and snappy on the email front. Hey, first name. Just a quick question: are you doing any form of LinkedIn outreach at scale these days at all? Question mark. Cheers. Send first name, and then another one here as a follow up as well. So you can see that we have 4 particular messages: 2 of them on LinkedIn and 2 of them on email. And this is an example of what really a good, snappy, to the point, short sequence looks like. And of course, you can sort of A/B test it just to try and figure out what works for you. But as I mentioned, so we send about 10,000 emails on a weekly basis. We do 3,000 connection requests on a weekly basis. We have 40 to 50% acceptance rate and 20 to 40% reply rate. From that, about 10 to 20% positive reply rate at all times. So it does work, and it can work programmatically at scale. Awesome. So I think we're good. We covered pretty well the followers use case. Any questions on the followers, guys? Feel free to ask. Maybe as I mentioned, so apart from followers of competitors, I would also tap into say communities on LinkedIn, like sales
Mm.
communities. I would extract followers from there. So maybe revenue operations functions and stuff like that. Maybe we would also tap into Clay followers, for example, right? So our integration partners. And so the messaging would be there along the lines of, "Hey, I saw that you're probably familiar with Clay, and I was just wondering, I'm just wondering, are you using Clay, or what status?" So I mean, there's multiple sort of things that you can do here, right? And I think my top recommendation is definitely do a lot of kind of A/B testing on the followers. But the
Mm,
reason why followers works also really well than kind of maybe a more generic list that we have pulled, and I feel like I showed in the previous example, is because we see a far higher performance on the followers than a normal list, right? So anything is better, I think, than a sort of a normal list that you pull. I think followers list or some intent-based list, right? You typically see higher conversion rates in there. So
yeah.
awesome. Let's move on to next use case. Unless you had something to add here, Kula.
No, I just wanted to ask if you can recommend people any of your top communities that you follow, anything that comes to your mind that you would
Sure.
sort of
So I
reach
mean,
out
if
to.
you want to learn more about Clay, there's a Clay Cafe, fantastic community there. I think all things Clay, and then there are, if you want to learn like Clay sort of what I call hardcore bit, you definitely want to join a boot camp. So there's one boot camp called the Revenue Accelerator by a guy named Pavel out of Poland. He's a former revenue operations manager that became a GTM engineer. Around now, he coaches essentially people into becoming essentially very sophisticated GTM engineers. So there's a lot of different resources online, including a few newsletters. But I think one that doesn't come to mind. But there's also a really good newsletter for Clay. But essentially, if somebody wants to tap into resources, do feel free to ping me. Don't
Mm,
be shy. But we'll try and add also as a follow up later on YouTube some of the resources on Clay as well.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
So yeah, Christian's just asking again another question. Is the recording going to be available? Yes, it will on this exact link on LinkedIn and also on YouTube. Let's move
yeah,
over to the next case.
yes. Let me share my screen again. Okay. So let's go back to the overview. So let's say you want to reach out to some demo attendees. We're going to do this case called demo recycling. Right. So let me show you how it works. Essentially, let's say you're using HubSpot and tracking all the demos there, and you want to reach out to people that have attended the demo but haven't shown any interest. So you would export that list, add it to Clay. I'm going to click on this table. And yeah, we have all these big companies and CEOs. We have their email addresses, and let's say we're interested in learning about their, I don't know, website tech stack, learning a bit more information on the tech that they're using. Actions is your place to sort of like go and explore and see what you can add. So for this, we would go to website tech stack and populate that column. There are other options as well, but it very much depends on your case. In this case, we just want to reach out to them and follow up and make sure that they reply to our request. So then we would just add their work emails once again and populate the. Let me just add the. Sorry, just a minute. Anyway, so you would add the missing details and populate this column with their email addresses. But for example, if you want to reach out with a more personalized messaging, then like Frank said, you could start with a question and ask what if they're using any cold email sequencer, how are they finding leads, and so on, just to make sure that the message is relevant and it's something that could essentially pique their interest. Sometimes you can also offer a piece of advice depending on the situation. But that's another use case where you want to reuse your HubSpot list. So in this case, a demo list, add it directly to Clay, and then follow up with the attendees using our cold email sequencer. Any questions on this case?
No, just one of the things that we haven't mentioned, but it's very powerful. You can actually also enrich with mobile numbers. So if you
Yeah.
have the ability to have reps that can do calling, it's super, super powerful. And you can get a bunch of numbers with a fill rate, I believe in Clay, anywhere between 50 to 90%. So quite a good fill rate on mobile numbers. And then call definitely your golden ICP. So I highly recommend that because it does look like we're just sending emails and LinkedIn messages. We don't do cold calling, we don't support that, but we use a platform called Salesfinity right now, where we do parallel dialing. So we also do about $2,000 on a weekly basis, and so we would enrich with mobile numbers, the list that we would assemble. where it makes sense, right? So, but we always do 3 channel journey. So email, LinkedIn, and we would
Yeah.
definitely call. On the calling front, we would apply humans, but we also would set up actually voice AI agents, which is something that we do on NA10.
Yeah, exactly. So a multi-channel approach is super important.
Mm.
Also, some companies realize that one of the channels is maybe not the right channel, so there's no product channel fit and so on. So in the beginning, it's important to test it out and see what works best for you. But generally speaking, a multi-channel approach is the way to go. Okay, so right, so we covered basic integration, sales leaders, demo recycling. We looked at follower list. Another use case, which is quite interesting, is geo-targeted campaigns. So essentially, reaching out to local businesses. For example, if you want to target stores or I don't know real estate agencies and so on, like different examples, you can do so in Clay, which is pretty good. So essentially, let me just quickly. Um, yes. So we're in San Francisco, and here in the search tab, you can select business types. And then in our case, we were looking for consultants, but there are other options here. So you can target car dealers, farms, art galleries, museums, whatever you're looking for. And then, of course, add the number of results here, and then submit and populate the tables. So in this case, we were looking for consultant firms. We found their phone numbers. So like Frank said, if you do cold calling, that's a great option. You can directly go here and start calling them. Or if you want to find different people working here, so different roles, you would go to either you can chat with Sculptor, which is your AI co-pilot essentially, and then find their other details. So if you want to find the email of, I don't know, certain VP, director level people working there, you will go to actions again and then look for that information. So whoever is targeting physical businesses, Clay is great for that. They just scrape Google Maps. They also have a few different integrations that they always list, so you can sort of explore and see what works. You can see different logos, and these are the different providers that they use. Anyone here targets local businesses? Any questions? I see that we have a few questions coming in.
Not on local businesses. I saw some question between Kyle and Jerry on LinkedIn talking about assembling the copy. This is Jerry, something that you can do in Clay. So just kind of quickly putting this on stage. If you're looking to essentially customize a copy and have different parts of the copy being, have something specific in mind, then Clay is fantastic for that sort of copy building. So Kyle has answered that quite well there. There was one question by Andrew: how many credits do we go through? I mean, if so, on one
Oh,
hand, you can, there's a lot of credits, but I mean, on one hand, you can definitely buy all the enrichment through Clay, right? And because Clay integrates, natively with all the various data providers, and but you can also plug in the data providers as well using the API as well, and push that data into Clay. So there's a couple of ways to do that. Either you pay essentially Clay for the data, or you pay directly that particular data vendor, right? And if you do, I think if you have a lot of data consumption, you typically get a bunch of subscriptions from data vendors and push that into Clay, and then have and then you have using Clay credits on top of that. But if your data consumption isn't that big, then there's no point really for you to have these subscriptions with different data vendors, right? So you may as well just use Clay, because it becomes very tricky with having all these subscriptions with all these companies. I mean, that's the key value of Clay, being able to aggregate and from across different data vendors, and then maximize coverage and improve data quality, and also minimize cost by adjusting in the waterfall, right, to which ones do you want to pick. So yeah, let's see what else we've got. So Andrew says yes, exactly. Massive saver, and it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing also on the LLM fronts, right? So using different LLMs and their APIs, right, to pull those in. But Clay also has its own LLMs as well, which are quite strong. And then one model is better for one use case versus the other one. So I'm not going to go too much into depth. Otherwise, we're going to be here talking for an hour just on the models in Clay. So, awesome. Appreciate all the questions. Now, guys, feel free to ask any other questions. Do we have more use cases coming up? Yep. Follow a tree.
Yes.
Over that
So we
well.
can go to expansion signals now,
Mhm,
just to quickly show you how it works.
mhm,
So let's say you have a list of people and companies. Here, let me go back. So in actions, you can decide what you're looking for, right? So enrichments is something that we have covered so far. So you're enriching data to have a complete list. We have sources, and then it comes to signals, right? You can look for job changes, postings, promotions, new hire, news and fundraising, and so on. In this case, we're looking for new hire. So we have all these different people, and I started to populate the column with their email addresses. So, for example, you have, I don't know, new hires in this, sales department, and they're using, I don't know, a product, and you want to reach out and let them know about these modern go-to-market softwares, and like essentially send them an email or call or do a LinkedIn outreach. You can definitely do that. So it all starts with your an action that you take, and essentially looking for a signal that you need. And then the overview would look like this. So you would import the data set. There's a table, and then we have different signals here. So new hire, maybe they raise some funding, and then job postings. And somebody asked about personalization. When it comes to messaging, yes, you would use that information to send more personalized outreach message and say, hey, like, I've seen that you guys have raised series A, and so on. So that's another use case that I wanted to share with you guys. Anything from you, Frank, on this one?
No particular questions. Yeah, naturally, expansion is quite a quite important thing. Like generally, anything that has to do with signals is quite important. So just kind of maybe dabbling quickly into various sort of signals. I feel from your experience, I think there were like top signals that people typically just generally use when it comes to reaching out to folks. What have you been hearing from the thousands of
Mhm.
conversations that you had with people? What are the
Yeah,
top
of
signals
course.
that matter to them most?
I would say that people are always looking, so for like new hires, is the company hiring, because that indicates that they're growing, in which departments, right? Which trajectory they're going for. Um, I'd say fundraising is a common one, but at the same time, it can be a bit outdated sometimes. I've seen some examples where people would congratulate a company with fundraising, but then it's outdated. So it's best to use information that is a bit is more static, so to say. What else? Anything that you can think of, Frank, when it comes to signals and doing the outreach using different signals? Have you used any yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of other signals. So let's say website visitors. So Clay has website visitors, for
Yeah.
example, as a signal, just to give you an idea, guys. So you can install a pixel, and then there's also waterfall vendors behind the scenes where essentially they maximize coverage. But essentially, in the US, you can identify who are the people that are on your site right now. You can enrich that with an email address, even including a mobile number, right? So you can execute immediately a campaign on LinkedIn, which is what we do. We also are about to roll out the same on email. So actually, we're going to fire off an email after a couple hours if you didn't sign up, for example. So these are the sort of the things that you can do also from signaling, and that works like really well.
Mhm.
What else we do on the signal front? Um, I think there's some product related signals that so they have to do less with what's happening on I guess on LinkedIn or on the website, but more what's happening in the product. So we also do have signals. So the more you can build that out, the better. And for some things, definitely want to go into Clay, enrich, and push and execute. On other things, we find that we need to use NA10 on a
Mhm.
sort of a backbone in terms of the automation. So I find that when you use Clay and NA10, this is like the power combo, just generally all together. Some people think that some people I've been talking to, for example, yesterday at an event, Clay event, is people perceiving that you have to use either NA10 or Clay. The smartest people in the world actually use both. And the advantages of both platforms to really maximize pipeline. And definitely, Clay's strength is on a data front, and how rich the data is, and being able to execute in real time. But there's some automation bits in the business that you need, which is more like the NA10 use case. So one of the things I've been surprised nobody has mentioned NA10, but yeah, one of the things that I'm seeing Werner right now is mentioning is also around social listening. Yeah, good point. You can check out the link, guys, later on around social listening. Definitely a strong one. So yes, social listening front. Yes, we also use that. Good point. So we are listening to signals on LinkedIn. So let's say there's a post and there's like a negative sentiment, for example, around a particular competitor. You can reach out to that particular individual, or even people that are commenting, right? So that is also strong. Same thing on Reddit. So people may be discussing particular softwares, particular pain points. So sometimes what we target is the keywords would be competitor keywords, or would be particular subject areas that we specialize in. For example, email deliverability, email infrastructure, LinkedIn outreach, things like that. That's what we want to, like, all those keywords, like we want to track that, right? And then score that, right? Or score the, let's call it, the conversation, etc., and then decide to execute or not to execute, against that particular data set. So so thanks for knowing that. One question maybe, Kyle has any tips on getting buy and send signals? So Verna, maybe you can answer that. So Verna, fun fact, Verna is from Clay. So so Verna can answer that question. He's very strong on that front, which is very good, very good to have you here, Verna. By the way, so you can answer some of the questions on this front that we may be less familiar with. So bias signals. I mean, for me, a bias signal would be, personally, the way I look at bias signals is they are on the high intent page, right? So let's say a user is on my pricing page, my integrations page is on my comparison competitor page, right? And you can definitely identify who is that user and then decide what to do with them. We also, what we do is we do calling as well on our side. So you can either call us just on the high intent page, or on some of the pages, actually, we're gonna call you, right? So this is what we would do with, I guess, with the users and different steps. Anything else comes to mind to you, Aquila, when it comes to bias signals?
I was just thinking about the way we use vector
Yeah,
for
so vector,
targeting.
yes. Yeah, so vector is one of the solutions that de-anonymizes naturally the users on the site. So it can tell us who it is, right? And then we can decide what we're gonna do with that piece of data. Vector also has a very generous freemium plan, by the way, guys. If you want to check out Vector, shout out to Vector there. And then so you can figure out who's coming to your site. You can get the LinkedIn URL, right? Then you can maybe execute that particular audience. Let's say you push that to Clay, you score that piece of that list or the for today, and you say, okay, these are really good leads, right? These are ICP yeses, for example, and then you push that into Salesforge to execute, right? And you can execute that either from the founder profile or the CEO profile, or you can plug in your whole sales team, like in our case, 30 profiles, and then you can programmatically, if you have a huge volume on your site. I would say definitely vector is valuable when you have a lot of traffic on your site. So definitely you need to figure out how to drum traffic, whether from an SEO standpoint, right, organic or paid. Super powerful for sure. And then the same thing, you want to execute also that on email. So always do that. And it works quite nicely. But speed to lead is what matters a lot. So you have to execute that in literally like 30 minutes max. The person is on the website, it's an ICP, so within 30 minutes you have to fire essentially on LinkedIn and on email, and then you're gonna see conversion rates going through the roof. Awesome. Actually, did you have anything else in terms of the use cases, or we covered most of the
Let
bits?
me just quickly see. Okay, so competitor text and displacement. I think we covered most of them, to be honest. If you're curious about any particular case, you can reach out to us. Also, if you want to book a demo, maybe I should share, or maybe you can add a link somewhere, Frank.
I mean, it's on
If
the website.
any,
You don't there's no need
or
to
just
share. So you guys, if you're ever curious on on playing around and discussing a custom use case, feel free to do that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, so this is, we're going to be covering more Clay as we're progressing on more and more use cases, and more we uncover in terms of what works, what doesn't. We're going to do another session in about a month's time. We're going to do a session with one of our Forge experts from Sales Captain. There's a guy named Bill. Bill is the CEO of Sales Captain, one of the most advanced agencies in the world that uses Clay. And we're going to go over, I think, up to also top 10 Clay workflows like in the world, and what works, what doesn't. So this was more about what we would use or what we see, but they work with a lot of other customers, also enterprise customers, and they have a slightly different lens on how to use Clay. So that's coming up on the 18th of November. Otherwise, if you want us to double down a bit more on how to use LinkedIn and how to see really great results, then we're doing a session next week as well, on how to maximize results on specifically on LinkedIn. So it's more about LinkedIn execution. LinkedIn is definitely important because for every positive reply that we get on email, we get right now about 2 to 5 positive replies on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is definitely should be a core strategy as part of your team. And so if you're struggling on making LinkedIn work, whatever the reason is, whether that's what we call the LinkedIn infrastructure or the copy, etc., that's exactly what we're going to cover next week on Thursday with Vicky from our team. She's the account exec, so she does a lot of LinkedIn outreach, and she's busy every day replying to all the replies. So we generate over 1,000 replies, just to give you the idea, guys, on a monthly basis from our prospect. That's like a huge volume that we do, and it works. But you just need to do it very well. So that's exactly what we want to cover on Thursday next week. So I appreciate everybody joining in. If you want to ask Akila more questions, she is available on LinkedIn. Just search her name and then just add Salesforge and you'll find her. Same with me. And otherwise, we'll be sure see you guys on LinkedIn. Appreciate everybody coming through.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Bye, everyone.
Bye.